deliver tangible benefit to ordinary people.
As you know, the Organization for Security Cooperation in Europe has a proud heritage. The fact that it could come together, this broad range of countries, during the Cold War and create this kind of foundation for a European security order in the way it did in 1975 it was a great achievement. And the fact that they could also agree on a set of common principles and commitments was very crucial in that regard, and not least during those years. 15 years after that final act, we broadened and deepened that cooperation within the organization through a Charter of Paris for a new Europe. But of course, the world has changed a lot since 1990 and 1975. We still have conflicts. We still have political crises that challenge our common security. And that challenge democratic principles and sustainable development. And at the same time, we have transnational threats, including terrorism, cybercrime, and environmental degradation that have intensified during these last 30 years and more. The COVID-19 pandemic has added to this situation. The common denominator is that they can only be solved through international cooperation. A multilateral platform such as the OSCE is therefore immensely important. It is time for us to go back to basics and to remind ourselves of our common rules and tools that we created to prevent and solve conflicts and crises, and to build security for both people and states. As chair, Sweden will emphasize fundamental tasks of the OSCE, such as the European Security Order and the OSCE comprehensive concept of security, and to contribute to resolving conflicts. Sweden strives to be an active and constructive participating state of the OSCE, and we would like to bring to the table some of the issues where we can work together to improve the organization. That gender equality helps societies develop in a resilient and prosperous manner, that women's participation in conflict resolution leads to more sustainable peace, and that respect for democratic principles and human rights, including freedom of expression and freedom of the press, promotes security and lays the foundation for economic growth. Sweden is honored to take over the chairpersonship of this organization in 2021. Our objective is that, as an organization, we should remind ourselves of the foundation that we have created and on which we can continue to build together. It is about our commitments and our security. Our part of the world is facing major challenges. International law is being violated. Conflicts remain unresolved, with outbreaks of violence or ongoing aggression. International obligations regarding human rights, principles of democracy, and the rule of law are increasingly being called into question. Climate change poses an ever-increasing threat, and progress on gender equality is slow and uneven. At the same time, we have at our disposal the world's largest regional security organization, built on commitments and principles that, if implemented, could bring peace and stability to our region. As chair of the OSCE, Sweden's primary focus will be to go back to basics. Emphasis will be on the fundamental tasks, as I mentioned, of the OSCE, to defend the European security order, to uphold the OSCE comprehensive concept of security, and to contribute to resolving conflict in accordance with international law. Holding the chair is not just about what we accomplish, but how we accomplish it. Sweden will endeavor to work as inclusively and as resource efficiently as possible. We want to see the active participation of civil society, think tanks, and research institutions. They can provide important perspectives, contribute to achieving shared goals, and facilitate informal dialogue and cooperation that underpin our political efforts. We will strive to be accessible, cost-efficient, and lean. This is also a question of democracy and legitimacy. Chairing the organization must be an attainable goal for all 57 participating states. In an era when our security is being challenged by increasingly complex threats, our chance to make a real difference lies in dialogue, cooperation, inclusion, and respect for agreed principles.
Now, you mentioned the European Security Order and the OSCE concept of comprehensive security as overarching priorities. In 2021, we will continue work in these areas and also respond in practice to your priorities. We will focus our activities on strengthening capacities of law enforcement agencies and improving their abilities to better respond to security threats. The mission will support the annual revision of several key government strategies, and these include the strategy on prevention of terrorism and countering violent extremism, 2021 to 2026, and strategies to address cybersecurity and trafficking in human beings. Additionally, and in cooperation with the Kosovo Police, the mission will facilitate training and certification of investigators on handling and securing digital data and evidence of crime scenes. We will also support institutions to combat corruption and financial crime through advanced training on preventing and tackling tax evasion to reduce the informal economy. In the area of rule of law, the mission will continue to review legislation to support compliance with international human rights standards. We will also continue to support and promote inclusive legislative processes with a focus on increasing representation of women and non-majority communities. In line with your priorities, we will also work to build the capacity of civil society to actively engage in consultation processes on legislation and policy creation. And we will continue to monitor criminal trials and civil court cases to ensure that fair trial rights and due process are applied. In promoting human rights, one of our top priorities will continue to be promoting the rights and well-being of non-majority communities. We support Kosovo to develop strong institutional capacities to nurture inter-community relations and respect for the rule of law. The mission will continue to focus on durable solutions for displaced persons, and we will support the participation and representation of non-majority communities. Language rights will be strengthened, especially through our engagement with the Kosovo Language Commissioner. Now, the key advantage and really the beauty of our mission, I find, is the strong field presence. We are co-located and have offices in all 38 municipalities. So we can closely monitor the security situation, especially of non-majority communities. The mission will enhance its support to Kosovo institutions on the Swedish priorities and outline the specific activities.
To this press conference, we have invited you today to